Tales of the Jedi Season 2 is expected sometime in 2024, but since there has been radio silence since Star Wars Celebration, I wouldn't be too surprised if it's pushed to 2025. The slate for 2024 Star Wars is already pretty full without it, according to current rumours, but of course any of this could change when Lucasfilm give official announcements. In no particular order, 2024 has Skeleton Crew, The Acolyte, The Bad Batch, Tales of the Jedi, and Andor Season 2. Although the latter, according to Making Star Wars, is still a very big doubt. Even though Empire magazine the other day came out and said Andor Season 2 is still coming in 2024, that would be the one I would say is most likely to be pushed. And Tales of the Jedi, well, we simply don't know. If it follows the pattern of the first season where it's just shorts, I suppose you could say it fits anywhere. It might even overlap the same way Season 1 overlapped with Andor's first season. That being said, I've made a handful of videos wherein I speculate what kind of Jedi we might see, who's going to show up, as well as the direction Lucasfilm and specifically Dave Filoni might take, how it might differ to Season 1. To this end, we've discussed the possibility of Baylan Skoll's backstory, as well as the likes of Quinlan Vos, Luminara and Julie, more Ahsoka Tano, and other characters too. And that brings us on to today. We're going to hone in on a different kind of Jedi. You see, here's the thing, the first season of Tales of the Jedi focused on Ahsoka Tano and Count Dooku, two Jedi considered unconventional, and it's for this reason if they're following the same pattern, I can imagine Baylan Skoll fitting in this category too. Both Ahsoka and Dooku are considered two sides of the same coin, disillusioned and struggling with the Jedi Order for their own different reasons. But what about those Jedi who were considered conventional, but still face their own personal struggles nonetheless? And one member who fits into this category that I want to start with is Master Kit Fisto. There is a lot that sets him aside from other Jedi of his time, his charisma, his fighting style, and before other Nautilans were introduced, his species and appearance. There is very little known about his backstory, who his master was, and the nature of his friendships outside of Plo Koon, Mace Windu, Aayla Secura, and Agent Kolar. Master Kit Fisto played by the rules. He was devoted to the Council and the Jedi Order at large. One of the most powerful Jedi of his time, he was considered by Grandmaster Yoda and Jedi Master Mace Windu as being one of the most skilled and proficient duelists. And there are two specific attributes of his physical fighting style that makes him so unique. He fought with Form 1, Shi-Cho. Many Jedi begin their training with this form, but very few retain it as their primary combat style. This is where Kit Fisto was unique. He not only decided to make Shi-Cho his primary combat style, but he learnt and mastered every intricacy possible in this form, something very few Jedi ever dared to do, and became one of the best swordsmen in the Order, sticking to that primary form. Form 1 was considered the determination form, also known as the Way of the Sarlacc. It was rudimentary for any Jedi. Its strength was its simplicity. The philosophy behind Shi-Cho, Form 1, was inseparable to the original philosophy of the Jedi, their purpose as keepers of the peace. The idea behind it was to defeat the enemy without inflicting serious injury. That was considered by the earliest Jedi the highest form of victory. It was a more direct approach to combat that strongly resembled that of traditional sword fighting. And the interesting thing about Shi-Cho is the more aggressive the form gets, the more deadly and direct. Unlike the acrobatic mobility of Forms 4 and 5, Shi-Cho sought to take advantage of any opening from the word go. If the foe presented you with a weakness, you acted on it decisively. It provided a solid defense, while also maintaining flexible balance when the practitioner needed to be defensive. The most notable way Kit Fisto used it was the use of wide sweeping motions to strike multiple opponents. This is just one attribute of Kit Fisto. The other defining feature was the fact he was able to fight underwater, a rare skill among the Order's members. Now if you watch episodes 2 and 3, and also watch the episodes where Kit Fisto is involved in the Clone Wars, you'll often see him with a charisma and a charm you don't find with other Jedi Masters. He was often grinning during battle and joking with his fellow Jedi. He certainly stood out amongst an Order that encouraged stoic personalities and setting your feelings aside. And this brings me on to why I think he's so important as a potential addition to Tales of the Jedi Season 2. Kit Fisto suffered a great tragedy in the war, the death of his former Padawan, Nadar Veb, against General Grievous in the episode Lair of Grievous. After a moment of grief, Fisto remained calm as he battled Grievous himself and escaped with his life. but you would assume Feb's death would have a deeper emotional impact on Kit Fisto, and may have been the first time this traditional Jedi Master started questioning the way the current order was doing things. And the reason I say this is in 2019, Henry Gilroy spoke about that episode, and he mentioned how Nadav Veb was a prime example of the Jedi Order cutting corners. He wasn't ready to be a Jedi Knight, but they promoted him nonetheless. The Republic and the Jedi needed more men on the front lines, fighting the Separatists. Nadav was not ready, and we see him being impulsive, being arrogant just before his death. Gilroy says this is deliberate, and exactly what Palpatine wanted. The writer and producer states that Palpatine had his eye on Anakin, but other Padawans and Knights as well, if his plan to allure Anakin failed. Nadav Veb and Barriss Offee were two others. I would love to see more Jedi who are considered conventional have these humanizing moments where they realize what Dooku did, what Ahsoka did, what Maul felt, even Yaddle, where they begin to question everything they've ever known, even though Kit Fisto stayed in the Order and lost his life in Revenge of the Sith, arresting Palpatine and trying to take him down. It's important to show that these Jedi Masters did go through a lot, in the same way Agent Kolar lost his Padawan in the Battle of Geonosis. Tales of the Jedi could give multiple dimensions to what are considered otherwise background Jedi. Though restrained in their emotions, is there a depth behind the smiling warrior? And even if they don't reveal this side of the character, having him appear in Tales of the Jedi Season 2, in the eyes of many fans, could, quote, redeem the character, following his swift death in Episode 3. The idea of Saesee Tiin, Agent Kolar, and Kit Fisto falling so easily to Palpatine was to show the sheer strength of Darth Sidious. But to this day, Star Wars fans wonder, how did such skilled and prolific masters not put up a better fight? Darth Sidious used Force speed and threw them off the Force using a Force scream. But it'd be nice to have a better memory of Kit Fisto, because something I've always found fascinating is the Sith considered Kit Fisto to be, quote, possibly deranged due to his optimism during combat. His grin was very off-putting, and this in some ways lent him an edge against opponents. But even though he was considered conventional, he broke the rule of attachments as well, something else they might decide to explore, his relationship with Aayla Secura. The comics that depict their relationship are Legends material, but that is something they could bring into canon. The implications of that could be huge. So I want to end this video by talking about another bit of speculation that I did touch upon the last time we talked about Tales. I mentioned that we need to see the first time Ahsoka took on Sabine as her apprentice on screen, not just mentioned as it was in the Ahsoka show. And despite her being focal in the Clone Wars, she appeared in Rebels and Tales of the Jedi Season 1, there are so many more stories about her we want to know. Her first few years as a rebel in the Dark Times, her actions during the original trilogy, and the first time she met Luke. There is so much they can do, but what kind of stories do you want to see in a second season of Tales? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.